I remember I walked up into St James's and my hands, everything, my whole body just lit up. I've got goosebumps all over.
I just don't do no baby. I get those goosebumps every time I'm around you. Please don't mind, you make everything so fine. Worry about those funds, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype,
We are back. I love it. I love the way we just come bopping on. But welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. We are back. Another full loaded transfer show with a very, very special guest who's in the green room, warmed up, ready to go. We have heard. So we're excited to have him join us tonight. But welcome to everyone in the chat. Great to have you in there. And of course, do all your good housekeeping work. Click those likes. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to us. We are nicely moving along, lots of new subscribers, lots of new people coming to Loaded Mag NUFC. So massive thank you to that. Keep coming along. But boys, how are we on this fine Wednesday evening? Daz, Chris?
All good, Pete. Wednesday, halfway in the week, all good. I'll set a target for the old likes. Yeah. I'd say go easy. I'll go 350. I think 350. People can do that on a Wednesday evening. Yeah. It's doable. But I'm looking forward to chatting to Pete, catching up on the latest and getting his opinions on a few things we've been talking about the last little while.
Definitely. Chris, how are you, fella?
All right, mate. I'm not going to lie. I've been really looking forward to the show. It's always great having Pete on. I feel like we're in fully loaded transfer season, so I'm very excited. Obviously, we've had a little bit of news today. I'm not going to spoil it because I know we're going to get to it shortly. But yeah, really looking forward to speaking to Pete, and obviously spending a bit of time with you guys is always good. Pete, how are you, mate? You good?
I'm good. Having a great half term, spending time with the kids. My boy's just got into Super Smash Bros. And he is absolutely addicted to it. So we've been absolutely hammering that all afternoon, and he's very, very happy. But yeah, really good. The only downside, the weather. Considering it's our week off, the weather hasn't been great. But look, we're making the most of it regardless. But other than that, cannot complain. And look, we cannot complain as a channel and people watching because we've got the main man back on with us. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome in Sky Sports News Zone, and he's fresh off Sky Sports News at this moment in time. It's Mr. Pete Graves. Let's get him in.
Come back, Pete.
Hey guys, hi everybody. You all right?
Pleasure.
All good.
Great to have you on, mate.
You're looking so well. I think unbelievably, you three look the best I've ever seen you. You look younger than last time we did this about a year ago. I think supporting Newcastle these days is actually making you, I don't know what it is. You look amazing. Well done, lads. And the new intro was great. These are great times, aren't they? Fantastic times for the two, even though we have missed out on Europe, which I was devastated about. But then straight away, I'd mates literally messaged me going, no, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. This is what we are as Newcastle fans now. We see the positives, don't we? We can focus on the positives, which is fantastic. So yeah, great to be back here, guys, and nice to see you all.
Top man. And yeah, like you said, we've been on. We've probably had you on a few times where maybe it hasn't been as positive, but it certainly is right now with the way we're at. And yeah, I like that little compliment that he's dropped to his boys.
That's the Manscaped Botox, I think, that we're getting ourselves. Isn't it?
Yeah, that could be it.
As you said, Pete, before, I've been on Sky Sports News all afternoon, and then I've just done our Transfer Talk podcast. So I've been talking transfers for the last hour as well. So I'm sort of I'm venturing into my 5th hour of broadcasting here with you guys. So I apologise if my throat starts to go soon, but no, it's always a nice relief to be able to just talk Newcastle for a bit, because it's my favourite thing to do.
I love it. And look, as we always say, Pete, we know your time is very precious, so we massively appreciate you coming and joining us. You work really hard at what you do, fantastic at what you do, and it's a pleasure to have you on with us, Loaded Mag NUFC. So we're going to get into it, mate, because there is so much to talk about. I'm already seeing the questions and things coming through already. But look, there's only really one place to start. As Chris quite rightly alluded to, there has obviously been some news today. Your colleague, Keith Downey, reported, as many others did, as the club did, that there are going to be 5 players that are released, 5 first-team players that are released. And, of course, those that stand out in all of that is Paul Dummett and Matt Ritchie. Look, what do you make of this? There's been kind of, lots of respect shown their way, but also a lot of relief in the same way. I think it's been a lot of mixed emotions for a lot of Newcastle United fans today with that news. Where are you sitting with that news, and is it the right news to be putting out today?
I think it was going to happen anyway. I know there was a lot of people read into the comments from Eddie Howe saying we'll see where we are with regards to Europe and everything like that. But I still think that that those players would have gone regardless. I just think what he was saying was we're going to review this season at the end of the season and see where we are. It wasn't necessarily saying, I think that so I think look, the first thing I'll say about Dummett and Ritchie is that not only have they been great servants for the club, but they're absolutely smashing lads. So I wish them all the best, and I think they'll both get clubs, and for Paul Dummett it's going to be strange. I mean, I know not only do I know him, but I know his family, and I think that he's been at the club since he was 9 years old. I really hope that he gets a move somewhere where he can enjoy a sort of fresh dressing room and a fresh challenge. And I think the two of them probably would admit maybe that they're probably Championship, or maybe so. You look at the clubs that have come up this season, the likes of Bournemouth, Leicester, and Ipswich. I think that both of them would be a great option for a team like that. But I think where Newcastle want to go next season, they need to free up as much finance as possible, whether it be wages and spaces in the squad. So I think it was inevitable that the players that have been released, we found out are going to be released, that have been released. I mean, Loris Karius was no secret, was it? And I think Dummett and Ritchie, I think it was kind of inevitable that might happen. But there's been some great memories from both players. And
no way.
This is a surprise.
No way.
I've got a little bit of a surprise, and considering you've been conversing with him for most of this afternoon, we thought we'd bring him on as well. Dharmesh.
Nice one. Welcome, Dharmesh. I just saw your. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
I just saw your DM on so it's not Twitter, is it? On X.
Yeah.
And seeing as it was Pete, he was just going on and on about, I've got so many podcasts to do tonight, Pete. I've got no time. I thought I'm going to join him.
Dave, I've literally just left Dharmesh 3 minutes ago, and here he is. I can't get away from you, mate.
I know, mate. I missed you.
I love it. That was absolutely a pleasure to have you on Loaded Mag NUFC, making you
fantastic. What a moment this is.
The transfer talk is just a continuation.
I'm so pleased that Dharmesh is here, by the way, because I was just gonna basically now I can just say, Dharmesh, you tell us what's going on. I don't have to do it. This is fantastic.
No.
Yeah, one thing we have to say is, look, you guys on Transfer Talk are absolutely fantastic. Anyone that's watching this right now, if you haven't checked it out and listened to the podcast, they are fantastic. We've been listening to it now for a number of transfer windows on Loading Mag NUFC, and we just have to say, look, massive thanks to both of you guys for bringing some fantastic content. Not only is it great content with great guests, great knowledge, but equally, you guys are very, very entertaining, shall we say? And
we were actually going to go for dinner tonight, weren't we? But we ran out of time because Transfer Talk went on for so long that we were spending the evening together anyway, Doms. Which is great.
I know, it's a shame.
I genuinely,
Christmas toast, so you could share it. You could share.
I genuinely did not know that Dharmesh was coming on. That is well done, lads. That is really fantastic. I think that has taken me by surprise. I thought when you said breaking news, I thought it was going to be some transfer line. I was like, you're going to completely catch me off guard. And I was going to actually be sitting there thinking, well, that shows how much ITK I am because I had no idea. But actually, it's even better than that. It's Mr. Sheth. I
was a bit nervous. I'll be honest with you, I was a bit nervous coming on because I've had a bit of grief from the Newcastle fans in the past week, actually. The old Internet Explorer meme has come out. Oh, you're so slow, blah blah blah, and I'm like, they keep telling me that the Tosin and the Lloyd Kelly deals are done, and I've not seen the scarf shot yet, so I'm just wondering where they're getting this information from. Maybe I need to look at their sources. But
well, this is funny you should say. Let me interject here because while Doms is here and we've got a lot of people watching, and while we're all here together, let me just tell you that I've worked at Sky for 15 years, and Dharmesh is as close to these deals as any reporter on the planet, okay? And what we have to always bear in mind, and any Newcastle fans watching this, a lot of the accounts that claim things are done and completed and it's done, and I've seen it already, and he's wearing the club shirt, it's been done. A lot of it's not true, guys. A lot of the stuff you read on social media is not true. Those deals, if the man to my right, or whichever way you're looking at this screen, is saying it's not done yet, then it's not done yet. And I think that, Doms, you'll know that those tweets have been ongoing, and that it makes sense for Tosin Odrabayo and Lloyd Kelly for Newcastle and Eddie Howe, and they've certainly come in, and you look at all the PSR and everything else, the fact they're both free transfers. But if Dharmesh is saying they're not done yet, then I will say on behalf of all Newcastle fans who are watching this, you can believe him. I'd
say just very quickly, Pete, with the information I've got on the Tosin deal is that a lot of the contract between Newcastle and Tosin has been agreed. There's just a few bits that need ironing out. Now, that's not going to be the problem at all. I think they can reach a full agreement on that, but reaching an agreement with someone who is a free agent and a deal being done where the player becomes a Newcastle United player are two different things at the moment, only because he is a free agent and he's going to have a lot of interest from other clubs because there's no transfer fee involved in this. And the only issue I'd say is a couple of the people that I've been speaking to is that, yes, Newcastle have held talks with Tosin and his representatives, and yes, there is a confidence that a deal can be agreed, but that doesn't necessarily mean he will join Newcastle United, because there's always that possibility where he can agree a deal with another club, and then the decision will be left to the player and his representatives themselves to decide where they want to go. So it won't be for Newcastle not trying to get that deal done and not agreeing a deal with representatives, because it's very, very different compared to if a player commands a transfer fee, because you need the clubs, first of all, to agree the deal. And then the player then decides whether he wants to speak to that club. Whereas here, because he's got the choice of a number of clubs, he can decide to speak to everyone. And that's well within his rights to do that. So that's the information I have on that Tosin deal. And it's quite similar as well with the Lloyd Kelly one as well. Newcastle, they've spoken to the representatives, but still those talks are going to have to continue before they reach an agreement between the two parties. And then eventually, if it does happen, he becomes a Newcastle player.
Yeah, there's no hurry. Neither player's under any pressure they've got all summer, and it would make sense for them to wait and see what's around, because all five of us, and those of you watching at home, would do the same thing. Newcastle, I'm sure, will have made a very good offer to both players on wages and everything else, but it's in their interest to go, hang on, let's just hold tight and see, if there's better out there, I suppose. And that's just that's what their advisors will be telling them to do as well.
That was the next thing I was going to ask, is like, how long do these things go on for? I mean, you would assume that they would want to have this their future sorted by sort of July the 1st, ready for pre-season, but it doesn't always work like that, does it? It can take quite a long time, and you would expect free transfers to be quite quick. But like you said, there will be conversations going on. Like it just from your inklings, both of you guys, do you think that there's a good chance that that Tosin Adarabioyo joins Newcastle United? Because it does seem like, and like I said, you can only believe what we read as fans of the club. Lloyd Kelly seems like it's maybe a little bit closer or more likely. But do you think that there's a chance that Tosin could well be a Newcastle United player?
You want me to go there? Well, I'll answer that. I think that Newcastle at the moment are in the box, are in the best position of anyone else, because I think the talks have developed with Newcastle more than they have with any other clubs at this moment in time. So Newcastle are in the box seat for both players, but fans are going to have to develop a little bit of patience. I just seen a message from Adam there. It says, "Get Dharmesh off. We just want made-up stories that everyone's joining us." And I get that. The reality is sometimes harder. Fans, we get excited.
Here you go, Adam.
There you go. We'd much rather see these sort of pictures and think that it's done. And I see the tweets out there and people claiming that it's done and the pictures have already been done and so on. But the reality is we know different, because we know that actually these players aren't necessarily even in the country at the moment. So when you see things saying stuff like, "Oh, well, they got the shirts signed. They've been wearing the shirts. They've got the pictures done today." Well, is anyone considered the fact they might be away or on holiday? I mean, so the reality around these things is often not true. And me and Dom spend a lot of time chuckling at some of the stuff we see online, but it puts you under immense pressure when you do know what's going on, because people think you're lying. It's like, you're lying. No, is
that like a big frustration for you, Pete? In the particularly as a Newcastle fan, I'm obviously talking to you and Dharmesh asking this question, but does that frustrate you when you see things and you're sitting there going, "Nah, it's not true that"? But obviously, in the bowls that you're in, you can't just constantly come out and go, rubbish everything. But
I think so. It is frustrating, and I think also it's not always just ITKs or whatever you want to call them. It's sometimes proper journalists as well, but but you can't. We're not in the business of you can't go around shooting down people's stories, and then even I think it's really it would be really unclassy to sort of go and even shoot down someone on social media who what they're saying is wrong. But people also get enjoyment out of reading reading these tweets and stuff. So I don't see the harm really. I'd never be one that would sort of call someone out and say, "Well, that's a load of rubbish. I know it's not true," because I just think it's almost school ground tactics, that, isn't it? And I just think the speculation and the stuff and all that, the talk going on is something we all enjoy in the transfer window. So I think it's all good fun. But I do think that my message to fans would be always read everything you read with a pinch of salt. Take everything you read with a pinch of salt, including what you read from the likes of me and Dharmesh if you want. It's just like, have a look at that and think what you think. But the reality is, as always, and the rule of thumb is, until you see them holding that shirt or until you see it on the yellow ticker at the bottom of Sky Sports News that it's a done deal, then but remember that anything can happen. We've seen deals basically there, done. We've seen photographs done. The shirt photograph doesn't mean anything anymore. We've seen them done and still moves collapse after that. So, until they're running out at St James's Park on the opening day of the season, don't believe that anything's a done deal.
I know I don't know how long we've got left with you, Dharmesh, but just wanted to ask you both just something else. And this is not necessarily a player coming in, potential player coming out. Lots of people talking about Bruno Guimarães. Lots of people have reported on Bruno. We know he's got that clause. There's other people that are mentioning that Newcastle have made it clear that they're not going to sell him unless the clause has been activated. Where do you guys genuinely see this deal at this moment in time? Because a lot of Newcastle fans have to say we are a little bit nervous. We're a little bit nervous. No European football. We know he's capable of playing at the very highest level. He's an outstanding talent. You know, where do you genuinely see this deal potentially happening or not? Like, what do you think, Dharmesh?
We've just had this conversation, didn't we, on the Transfer Talk podcast just in the last 15 minutes. And I think Pete summed it up quite well in that, you know, a release clause can be met, but all that does is gives the player the permission to go and speak to the club. It's up to the player to go and speak to the club. And from what Pete was saying, and whenever you hear Bruno Guimarães speaking, he seems more than happy at Newcastle United. So there's no guarantee that if a club meets this £100 million release clause, that Bruno Guimarães is going to say, oh, yeah, I want to go talk to them. He might not want to.
I've just said it on the Transfer Talk podcast as well, and you can click this up. Bruno and Isak will be running out of St James's Park in black and white shirts on the opening day of next season. I've got no concerns whatsoever about
I would just say one thing. The start of the season, the window's still open. So maybe if you say after August the 30th, Pete.
Okay.
Go again.
Okay, let's just rephrase that. You can clip this one up, lads. After August the 30th, deadline day, when the window slams shut, because it never just closes on Sky, does it? It always slams shut. Bruno and Isak will both be Newcastle players next season. I've got every confidence in that. I think Isak, Newcastle spent a fortune on him already. What on earth would he cost? No one in the current climate can afford Alexander Isak. Bruno's got £100 million release clause that expires at the end of June. I don't think anyone's going to trigger that either. And also, as Dharmesh says quite rightly, and I made the point earlier, even if someone came in and offered £100 million, you've then got to think that Bruno is going to want to go and uproot his entire family. You've seen his dad, you've seen his family, you've seen how happy they are in Newcastle. I don't lose any sleep over this. And if I'm wrong, I'll hold my hands up, and I've just become one of those ITKs I've just been talking about. But I am very, very confident that both players will be at Newcastle next season. I couldn't give my guarantees on anyone else, but those two I really think are absolutely paramount to the club's thinking and to Eddie Howe. So I know the £100 million release clause, the Isak one, no one can afford him. The £100 million release clause on Bruno complicates it slightly, but I just can't. I don't think there's any way he'd go. I really don't. I think he signed. He believes in the project. He's settled. His best mate Joe Linton's just signed a brand new deal. Those two, by the way, are absolutely close as brothers. You know, he's not good. I just can't see him going anywhere, guys. I really can't. I think he's happy at the club, and I think for this summer we can put those rumours to bed. I'm certain.
We also saw on Instagram Bruno's dad putting reposting what Bruno had said, sort of 24, 25 soon. Obviously, he's wearing the Newcastle shirt. Naturally, everyone tends to get excited by that. So Newcastle fans are seeing little snippets that are making them feel like he is going to stay. And like you said, it's a really, really good point that both of you made, is that kind of he's not made any kind of inklings that he's unhappy. He always talks about how much he loves the place and how he loves the club. Even now, he's still putting stuff out. He put something out yesterday and sort of rewinding back to the season. Like, he's still so integrated with everything Newcastle United. It just, at this point in time, it doesn't seem to me, in my eyes, he's looking in any way, shape, or form of coming away. But Daz, Chris, are you kind of in the same mindset, or are you sort of feeling differently?
Oh, Bruno's definitely staying. He's definitely 100% staying. And as we've talked about many times, like, will never replace the passion he has for Newcastle. We could bring in a player of similar quality, but just the whole overall package, he's so suited to Newcastle. I think he'll never get the same elsewhere either. So and he's definitely not going to Arsenal. He even sings the song. No, that is not happening.
Chris, you with us?
No, I completely agree. I liked what Pete said, about Arsenal, not necessarily Arsenal, but nobody being able to afford Isak. I mean, we keep hearing reports, don't we, from certain media outlets, that like Arsenal are going to come in for 90 million bids for Alexander Isak, and it's like, I don't know what planet they're on if they think that Newcastle are going to accept 90 million for Alexander Isak, because it just won't happen. But no, I feel I completely agree with Pete, and I also he's put my mind at rest as well, because when you hear it off Pete Graves, that's enough for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Get my words out here. A situation with Newcastle at the moment is settled around the goalkeeping situation. It's a conversation that's been rambling on since the back end of the season, where Pope wasn't playing. People, and I was one of them. I felt he should have started against Man United. He didn't. Dubravka's come in. People feel that Dubravka needs to move on. There's then been links with the likes of Georgi Mamadashvili. They're continuing to be linked in here. Reports in Spain saying he's not going to go for anything less than 40 million euros. We've had new links. Craig Hope talked about it, as well as others, with regards to James Trafford as early as yesterday, 20 million. Still talks here with regards to Aaron Ramsdale. Like, are you hearing anything, guys, with regards to the goalkeeping situation? Is that a priority position in your eyes that Newcastle United are looking for, or are people kind of way off the mark here?
Well, I think that I'll give you a little bit of an exclusive here, right? When I had my book launch, and Eddie Howe and Kevin Keegan both came to that night, which was fantastic. One of the conversations that they had backstage was about Pavel Srnicek, God rest his soul. And Kevin was talking about Pavel Srnicek, and what he said, you know what, the thing is with Pav, I kept wanting to buy another goalkeeper, and I kept buying keepers, but every time I bought another one, Pavel's level went up. And he was like, every time I bought another keeper, and he was going through Shaq Hislop, whatever. He said, every time I bought one, Pavel went up a level. And I just, as a bystander on the conversation, I just thought Eddie was really interested in that. He was like, he really picked up on the back of it. And it just got me thinking at the time, I think you look at the two teams at the top of the league this season, Manchester City and Arsenal, and they've both effectively got two number ones, and they've got two quality goalkeepers. We massively miss Nick Pope. I think Eddie would like to be able to sign someone who would challenge Nick Pope week in, week out, because I think at the moment in time you have this vast difference. If Nick Pope's out, boy, did we feel it, with all due respect to Dubravka. But I'm one of those, sometimes it makes me feel a bit nervous when he's in goal. That's putting it in a nice way. But when Nick Pope was there, and I was at Brentford away, and I just felt that sort of, I don't know, I was more comfortable. I felt the defence looked more comfortable. They were happy to knock it back, and he becomes almost that fifth player. Now, Dubravka's an incredible shot stopper, and I think he's a good goalkeeper. And I think he's someone who, if you're looking at making money, he's someone who you could get a few quid for. But I just think Eddie would like to bring someone in, I think, deep down, who could challenge Pope week in, week out. I think you've got Gillespie there, who's a great choice as third goalkeeper. I think Karius will go. It wouldn't surprise me if Dubravka went as well. And it wouldn't surprise me if someone comes in who could challenge. Ramsdale's been mentioned. It's an obvious choice because Eddie Howe's had him before, and he's not being used at Arsenal at the moment. You've got Trafford there, another good name. Mamadashvili at that sort of price, I think, with PSR in mind, would seem a little bit steep. And I think Nick Pope, for me, I think Eddie sees him as the number one, but I think he'd like someone to close the gap a little bit, because I think there is I think all fans would agree there's a big gap between Nick Pope and Dubravka. And I think Eddie would like to bring someone in where the gap could be closed, if that's the fairest way of putting it.
Definitely.
Okay, so we didn't get a clear answer from Pete. Dharmesh, who's your money on that would come to Newcastle as a keeper? And I respect Pete's answer because it's broad and it's taken in the equation of Eddie's thinking.
The Ramsdale one's an interesting one for me, only because I think the price tag would be quite steep if Newcastle were to go into the market for him. And you got to also think about Aaron Ramsdale's position as well. He is in the England training squad. In the, how many did they name? They named 33, I think, for this training squad. And that's got to get whittled down. So he's made it into that squad despite only playing 2 games since David Raya came to Arsenal. If he's going to move, the one reason he's going to move is to be a number 1, you would think, because I don't think he can go through another season like this and expect to be in the England reckoning. If he wants to stay in the England fold, he's going to need to be playing regular first team football. Now, if Nick Pope is staying at Newcastle, would Aaron Ramsdale go to Newcastle to basically have the same situation he's got at Arsenal, whereby he's going to have to fight because there are 2 number 1s at the same club? And I know I take Pete's point that Eddie Howe would love to have that luxury that Manchester City and Arsenal have got just now, whereby you've got 2 number 1 goalkeepers in effect. But you've got to think about the actual goalkeeper and the mentality of the goalkeeper himself, whether someone like Aaron Ramsdale would go from a fight with a number 1 goalkeeper, which he's lost effectively, and go to Newcastle United and go into another fight for a number 1 spot. So that one, it would be, I'd be quite surprised. I wouldn't rule it out, but it'd be quite surprising if Newcastle did that, only because I'd be surprised if Aaron Ramsdale would have accepted that, unless he would be getting some sort of assurance that he is going in as the number 1.
Yeah, definitely. It's, for me, and I think as boys as well, that's Chris, I think we've all talked about this, is that if a goalkeeper comes in, it has to be someone that's going to come in as a number 1 and not just come in as a backup. And it's really interesting you said that, Pete, in sort of the conversation between Eddie and Kevin Keegan, because that's what you would expect of a club that is trying to build and be better, is constantly have that competition. Nobody should ever be in the playing staff be resting on their laurels. They should always be being challenged and pushed every season. And no doubt about it, Nick Pope is the number 1. And like you said, we absolutely missed it. But to bring in a Ramsdale, but for me, and I think for Daz and Chris as well, and Mohamed Ashley, who is a very, very talented young goalkeeper, would actually push that to another level. And there's others in the chat that agree with Mohamed Ashley in relation to that. But I do think that's something that we need to be looking at for sure. I mean, you're looking at other positions as well that potentially need to be challenged. We've had links with regards to Miggy going to Ipswich potentially. We've had links. Because we need that competition and that push for a right winger situation. But we've had links, and I don't know how much you know or whether any of this is true or not. Recent links with the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin as a potential replacement for Callum Wilson.
I can't see that. I can just say I can't see that one. I think there was a time when there was an interest in Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And then I asked the question the following window, and that interest had gone away. Whether it's now been reignited, that one, I've got a lot of respect for the journalist who said that, and I think his information comes from really good places. But that would surprise me, having some of the conversations I'd had about Calvert-Lewin. But I could hold my hands up. I could be wrong there, but that one surprised me. The Jared Bowen link I could see, but again, he's going to cost too much money, I just think. I think that he's a player that Eddie Howe would love to have in the squad. He would fit an Eddie Howe type of signing, but I just think he would be too expensive. That said, there's big changes at West Ham, and we've just been talking about that with Julian Lopetegui coming on. There's a complete different structure. David Moyes is out there, and we were theorising about West Ham maybe selling some of the more David Moyes type signings, you know, and bringing in. They've brought an influx of great foreign players in at West Ham, the likes of Kudus and others, and you wonder whether with the changes at West Ham, whether they might try and cash in on some of the more Moyes-esque players. Maybe Jared Bowen would be one of them, but even if they were going to sell him, you're talking 100 million plus, and I don't think Newcastle are in that market at the moment. Calvert-Lewin, we've had problems with injuries with both Isak and Wilson. I just think his injury record would put Newcastle off. I think maybe he's one that Everton would like to maybe sell, because he's probably in a similar situation to some of the more senior players at Newcastle, where you're looking at where you can raise funds, and I think Calvert-Lewin might be in the pocket of, like, if Everton could get a few quid for him, then fair enough. But it would really surprise me if he ended up at Newcastle this summer.
Just finally from me, before I know I've gate crashed this podcast, I've got to go in just a second. But Pete mentioned the structure at West Ham. I think you need to talk about the structure at Newcastle as well, because you've got a situation there where, you know, Dan Ashworth is on gardening leave. He's obviously not going to be the sporting director at Newcastle United anymore. There was talk of Dougie Freedman. Now he's committed his future at Crystal Palace. And now there's the ongoing talks with the global sporting director at 777. That's Johannes Spors. So, yeah. Wow. God, you guys are good, aren't you? Just like straight on it.
You know what we do.
Goodness me, no hiding place here, is there? So I think, you know, that is an issue as well, because all of these clubs, particularly the big clubs, want to adopt this European style of structure and get that hierarchy completely right. I mean, we've been talking nearly every single podcast, haven't we, Pete, about what Manchester United are going to do. And for the last 10 or 15 years, when the Glazers have been there, they haven't really had that structure. And now they've handed that structure in one foul swoop to Ineos, which is effectively an admission of they've got it wrong for the last 10 or 15 years, because it hasn't worked for Manchester United. So I think Newcastle United are really going to be careful and really need to get that appointment right as well, with regard to what happens with future recruitment. So whether it's Johannes Spors or whether there's someone else in the pipeline that they're talking to, I think that will be a big appointment as well.
Definitely.
Great. Yeah.
I mean, interesting. But Dharmesh, absolute pleasure to have you on. Hopefully it's not the last time we have you on. Maybe we can have you on again sometime down the line.
I only just came on just to see the look on Pete's face, that's all, because he was telling me that throughout the whole of the last podcast, I've got to go on this other podcast. I only knew when I came off that one, I looked at my ex and I saw that direct message. Go on then, I might as well surprise him. Been a pleasure.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dharmesh.
Thank you, Dharmesh.
If I bang on the wall, he's going to hear. You're going to hear the bang on the wall there next door. Well, that was a nice surprise.
It was.
To be fair, Daz and Chris didn't even know either.
We didn't know.
They had no idea. So,
Yeah.
it was a nice surprise all round, and it'd be even funnier if he came into your room now and he was giving it one of those guys.
Literally, I'm pretty sure he's next door. That was brilliant. Great podcast moment, lads. I take my hat off to you.
Yeah.
Well done.
But no, you've covered so many topics, which is absolutely great. I mean, there are other sort of topics on players, and we've covered a lot. And I'll stick with the conversation we had just before Dharmesh left, when we were talking about like the Dominic Calvert-Lewin and the sort of Miguel Almiron situation, a right winger potentially coming in. We looked at and had a quick discussion around Jared Bowen as an option. Sticking to our players, like, is there a genuine feel for you, Pete, and just maybe from what you know or have heard, that Callum Wilson and Miguel Almiron are more likely to leave the club this summer? I mean, it's rumoured to be the case, but are you hearing that kind of it's potential?
No, look, I think there's effectively there's two parts to this window. You've got everything that happens before July the 1st and everything that happens after July the 1st. So I think Newcastle probably are fairly close on PSR, and I think that it would certainly relax everyone at the club if they were able to sell 1, 2, or 3 players. We know Eddie's immensely loyal to the players that he has, but if an offer was to come in for Callum Wilson and for Miggy Almiron, I wouldn't be surprised if they took it. Whether Ipswich are going to pay the money that Newcastle would want for Miguel Almiron, I'm not sure. I think they're going to have to be quite frugal when it comes to their spending, as they've just come up from the Championship. But there was a lot of talk of Miguel Almiron moving to Saudi Arabia, but then some suggestion that he doesn't want to move. The thing is, it was talking about Bruno Guimarães being really happy at Newcastle. It's quite a tricky thing. I think a lot of the players are settled. Eddie's created a culture there where all the players are really happy there. I think it's difficult to sell. You see these clubs. Ange Postecoglou coming out of Spurs and saying he wants to completely revamp his squad. You talk the whole Manchester United squad is up for sale. Well, it's one of those. Good luck selling them, guys. Good luck selling all of these players. It's fair enough saying they're all up for sale. Getting players out in the current climate is very, very difficult. So the offers will have to come in. Now, would an offer come in for Callum Wilson? Potentially, but his injuries last season and his age don't make him a particularly, what's that offer going to look like? Are you better keeping Callum Wilson as someone who when he's fit will score goals? Similarly for Kieran Trippier, what's that? Bayern Munich offered in the region of 12 million quid. At that money, would you rather keep him in the squad? Miguel Almiron's the one. Could you get 20, 25 million for someone like Miguel Almiron? That would probably be worth taking. You're getting the money back that you paid for him. But again, other clubs are going to know that Newcastle are going to need to sell players to raise funds. So it's a very tricky one. And that brings you back to do they sell one of the more key players? And I've already said I don't expect either Bruno or Isak to leave. So I don't know where else you would look. You're talking about goalkeeper. We're saying, would they sign? They go, well, would they sell Nick Pope? I mean, that would be a surprise, wouldn't it? But he's a very, very good goalkeeper. Is he someone that you might sell? And then I'm not saying they will, by the way. I've got no info to say that they will, but you look down the squad and you think, well, who's a saleable asset? And that's unfortunately the situation Newcastle are in. I think they do need to raise a few quid before July the 1st. Who that is, or what players leave, I'm not sure. But I think a couple of players that we've got used to being quite key first team players might have to go.
How about the other side of it, Pete? Then with us needing to offload someone, maybe, but other clubs also looking to offload. Needing to balance the books, let's say, for PSR. But how about Notts Forest? Would a cheeky bid from us for a certain player from Forest here, who we have him here somewhere?
Kieran Gibbs-White.
There he is.
I mean, he's a great player, and he certainly would fit the mould for Newcastle, wouldn't he? He'd be very typical of you think he would fit into the system well. I mean, he'd be a great player to sign, but again, I think we'd have to wait until later in the window. We'd have to see where we were after July the 1st. I don't think we'd be able to go for someone like that. It's interesting. It says Forest need to sell players before 30th of June. I don't think Newcastle are in a position they could buy someone of that caliber before the 1st of July. So it doesn't really help Forest. Yeah. I don't think we can go and splash 30, 40 plus on a player until after July the 1st because we're so close to FFP as we are. I think it's more. That's why you see that we're linked with free transfers at the moment. I think that there's almost like the two phases of this window. There's everything that happens before July the 1st and everything that happens after. And then July the 1st comes, we can all sort of reset. We'll know that Bruno's buyout clause is expired and everything else. And I think then we can move forward from July the 1st with a new plan. But there'll be two plans in place. And I think that's why we're focused our time and energy on a couple of free transfers at the moment. And I think there will be a little bit of effort going into clearing the decks, as we've seen with some of the lads who've been released today. And the trip to Australia and everything else, I think that all ties into it as well.
Do you think?
Go on, sorry, Pete. No, I was just going to wrap it up, mate, and just say we were talking about this the other night. Pete saying that it's strange how it feels like there's two different transfer windows in the same period, and we've never seen that before. And you're absolutely right when you say we've got the June transfer period, and then we've got the rest of the transfer window. And is that really weird for you to kind of report on as well, in terms of things could look a lot different come the 1st of July?
Yeah. I mean, it's totally bizarre, and it's not something I'm a big fan of, to be honest. I think that the fact that clubs are having to sell their homegrown players. I mean, in reality, Newcastle, the best thing Newcastle could do in reality is sell Elliot Anderson, Sean Longstaff, and Lewis Miley, because you sell those three. Every penny you make is pure profit because they've come through your academy. But it seems ridiculous that we've ended in a situation where someone like Lewis Miley, who could go on and be an England central midfielder in the future, and you're going to have to cash in on players like that because of these ridiculous rules. I'm not a fan of it. I don't agree with it. It needs to change, and it is going to change. But unfortunately, it'll only change once we get through this little delicate period that we're in now. And I think that Newcastle have to be careful, because what you don't want to do is go into next season with sort of fines and points deductions. Because once you start down that sort of avenue, it spirals. And I think so. I think Newcastle need to box cleverly until July the 1st, and then have a reset. And so, like you say, I'll be quite happy waking up on July the 1st, and it will feel like a full reset as far as transfers, and particularly Newcastle's transfer business is concerned.
Last thing I'll ask you, just on the back of that, before I think we'll come to some questions, because there's a few questions in the chat as well. You just mentioned that those academy players or players that have come through the club, that pure profit. Do you think that there could be a chance that someone like Sean Longstaff, who's got a year left on his contract, could potentially be sold this summer? Do you think that there is a chance of that happening in order to raise that pure profit?
It's who's going to buy him, and I think in reality, I think Longstaff's done a brilliant job for Newcastle. I think he got a lot of unfair criticism last season at certain times. He seems to be the scapegoat sometimes when things don't go well, and I think he's a player that Eddie really rates highly, and I think he does something that maybe we didn't have anyone else in the squad who could do, and he does a lot of the dirty stuff that doesn't always grab the attention of people watching, but it often is he's an important cog in that team, and we've seen him in certain games be sensational as well. And so, that perfect night when we beat Paris Saint-Germain is a great example of a night where I thought he was absolutely brilliant, but the whole team were brilliant that night. I would think who's going to come in for him, and who's going to pay again sort of fee. What would you sell Sean Longstaff for? It's really tricky, and again, you're looking at the three teams coming into the league, I think, and straight away you're looking at your Southamptons, your Ipswich, and your Leicesters. But Leicester are in real financial problems. There's talk that they could be coming into the season with a points deduction. So I don't think they're going to be in a position where they're going to be able to spend much money. Southampton, they've had lots of their players have been on loan this season. Likes of Ryan Fraser, was on loan, but there was loads of players there. So I don't know. It's finding the buyers. It's finding the buyers for these guys, and also having a fee where I think Eddie would be tempted to sell someone who could be seen as an important squad player. I think with all of these guys, like, if you could buy 3 or 4, if you could somehow navigate your way through to July the 1st, they've already released obviously Dummett and Ritchie and a few others today. If you could get through to July the 1st and add some 2 or 3 really key players to the squad, and keep the likes of Sean Longstaff as a squad player, I think that would be the perfect scenario. I think Eddie would like to keep as many of those players as possible. It is a squad that got us to 4th last season. It's a squad that, without the injuries last season, I think would have been touch and go for top 4 again. So I don't think we're in a position where we're sitting here, we want a major overhaul. I know fans get excited about that, but I think we're like 2 or 3 players short of a serious top 4 challenge, particularly with no European football next season to worry about. We can concentrate purely on having a go at the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup and the Premier League. So yeah, again, if an offer comes in for these guys, I think Newcastle are going to have to look at them. But I'm not hearing much about major offers coming in. So I think it's using the new sponsorship money, the Champions League money, the Adidas money, the seller money, everything that comes in after July the 1st in the new financial year, and maybe signing a couple of players who can really add to the first team mix, but not massive changes this season, I don't think.
Pete, I know you've been on for hours now, so I'm just going to go through a few questions for you, maximum 10 minutes, and then we'll let you have the rest of the evening to yourself. But I can see questions flying in all the time, so I apologize in advance. We do as a channel. We're not going to get through all your questions, but thank you. There's been some fantastic ones in there. But Daz, what questions are we going to throw at Pete now?
Yeah, I've filtered some of them because we've talked about them along the way. But look, like Pete, you mentioned 2 or 3 players possibly in July. I guess who would you like? We've got one here from Mark Doyle. He's basically saying quality over quantity. And Tom asked the question: if Wilson does leave, what striker would you like to bring in, or could you see us bringing in?
Well, I like the idea of someone who can play, and I think Eddie likes the idea of someone who can play across the front 3. You've seen him utilise Gordon in that central position. Isak, obviously, when Wilson's come in, he's slotted in on the left-hand side. There's talk of Sesko, isn't there? I mean, I think he would be someone. He's got a fairly reasonable buyout clause, but I think that if we do go in for him again, we'll be competing against some other big teams. I think Arsenal are in the market for a striker as well. So would we be going up against the likes of Arsenal and maybe others in the Premier League as well? But he would be certainly some. I mean, someone mentioned Nketiah. I mean, he could leave Arsenal. He hasn't played really this season. Could he be someone you could get for as a backup to Isak? We've seen how Eddie Howe can make players better and improve players. I see someone's just come in there with Solanke from Bournemouth again. Yes, he's someone who I think would fit in. Guirassi's been mentioned there, another name that we've been linked with. I think a forward player should be a priority because I think we've seen that Wilson's injury record, and we could have done with a third striker anyway. So whether Wilson stays or goes, I think another option up front would be a key area for Newcastle to try and strengthen. So yeah, I mean, I would look to spend a bit of the budget on a striker, definitely, regardless of whether Wilson stays or goes. And if Wilson does leave the club this summer, then obviously it's a major priority. But I think even if he stays, which I'm not sure he will, by the way, but even if he does stay, then I think adding a striker would be key. Yeah.
I'm just going to add one to this because I was going to put it on, but we didn't have enough space. Daz will know this. Craig Lee's mentioned Karim Adeyemi from Dortmund. Apparently, they are open for him to be sold this summer. We know it because obviously we faced him in the Champions League. Was a very, very talented player. That's another one. Not saying that we're linked with him directly. We haven't been. I've certainly not seen anything, but that type of player who could play out wide as well as play through the middle would be a real sort of type of player that Eddie Howe could definitely work with. Bags of pace, can fit that type of player. So Craig, we see you. This is why.
Yeah, I think he's a great shout. I mean, you're right. He's really impressive in the games we played against him. And he's got bags of pace and he fits the profile. I think what's nice about Newcastle is that we kind of get you can kind of see that the for years and years of never having any structure and just sort of almost sort of there never seemed to be any structure to the players that Newcastle were targeting or signing. They all seem to. And if you look at the records that Newcastle, what they've achieved in transfers, I think since the takeover is actually remarkable. And you write them all down on a list of players that have come in since that takeover. I think Newcastle have been brilliant in the window and have every confidence in what's going on at the club. I don't think there's a lot of talk about the director of football. I don't think there's any huge hurry. I've got a lot of faith in Eddie Howe. I think he's calling a lot of the shots at the club at the moment. Steve Nixon, I think, has proved time and time again that he's very capable at identifying players and bringing in players as well. So I think Newcastle, I wouldn't like to see Newcastle rush into a director of football appointment. I think they've got to get the right person. And I know there's a lot of disappointment about Dan Ashworth leaving the club, but let's remember that he came to Newcastle and he put all of his structures in place. And from what I hear, did it behind the scenes, did a fantastic job. But those structures are now in place at the club. And yes, he may have gone, but Newcastle almost had the Dan Ashworth effect put down before he went, if that makes sense. So that structure is still ticking at Newcastle, and it just needs someone who can come in and basically continue on the work that started. You know, I think behind the scenes, things are good at Newcastle. So yeah, I think we'll see. Names will come out of nowhere as well, and always. It used to be quite easy reporting on Newcastle, finding out information. It's a lot harder these days, and there's always a surprise that comes out. And I love that as a reporter as well, that name comes out of nowhere and that no one has mentioned. And I know the club love doing that to us as well. So I'm excited to see the names that haven't been talked about yet as well.
Gone are the days of you traveling up to Newcastle on the train with the latest signing, Pete. Early days.
I know.
But there's another one here. Kind of change of topic here, but the meeting, the business meeting that Amanda and Mairdad were having in Monaco at the Grand Prix of the weekend. Any thoughts on that, Pete? And any whispers?
I just think that the club off the field are growing so rapidly commercially. Every day you see new deals. I think Peter loved this. So you've got your cap on or regularly back from. There's a new cap deal today, wasn't there? So what it's just incredible. There seems to be new deals all the time. I think that commercially they're all doing a fantastic job there. You look at what's happening with. I mean, there we go. Like Dharmesh says, you don't miss anything here. But I mean, you look at what's happening with Seller. You would have noticed when you're watching the fight, I'm sure Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, and it said Seller across the ring. And I just said this to my son. I was like, that's our club sponsor there on the biggest fight in the history of boxing, just plastered across the canvas. They've done some amazing things for supporters already, and I think they've got more planned. You've got the Adidas deal kicking in next season and more commercial deals all the time. It's all going to help towards growing the club to the place where they want it to be, which is competing year in, year out. I know for a fact that Newcastle go every season now, going forward. And people say, I know there's this debate about Europe or not Europe. They'll be really disappointed to miss out, because I think season on season, the aim is European qualification and try and win a trophy. That's the two, win a cup and qualify for Europe. They go every season with that as the mentality in the football club right now, which is amazing to think how quickly we've gone into that. We go in every season with that mentality now. Qualify for Europe, try and win a trophy. And that's where the club is right now, which is really exciting. The whole club is behind that mantra, and I just find that that's a really great place to be, and that's what we all want, isn't it? Really, that is what we all want to be battling to try. We don't expect titles, we don't expect to win the Champions League, but we want to be trying our best to finish as high up the table as possible and competing in the trophies. And that's when Newcastle United are here as we sit here now in 2024, and that is amazing how quickly we've got to that stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another change of direction, and I suppose this is kind of like your opinion, and you're ready here, lads, to point. But some may say some of these players are a great age. But what would you do, Pete, with Miley, Alex Murphy, and Minta next season? Do you keep them? Do you loan them out? Depends who we bring in, of course, as well.
It's a really good question. I'll do what Eddie wants to do. I mean, I think that Miley did a great job when he came in, and I think he's going to be a really important player for us. I think he'll assess the situation. I think Minta will come back and play a bit, won't he, pre-season, and it'll be fascinating to see how he slots into the system. I mean, we already know we've got Sandro Tonali, which is going to be, and I hate to coin the old Alan Pardew phrase, but it's like, I think it was Pardew, like a new signing, but we've got there potentially Minte and Tonali, two fairly quality players to chuck into the mix already before we've even had to spend any money, which is brilliant position to be in. And I know we all would have loved Tonali to play all season last season, but as we're nearly at the end of his ban now, I really think in the games that I saw him play last season, I thought, wow, this guy's going to get better and better. And I know you've probably heard the rumors, but the player, he's been training, and the lads that train with him are just absolutely blown away by his quality. So I'm excited to see him play. And Minte is another one. I don't know whether next season will be the season that he makes a breakthrough in the team, but I hope it is. It'd be fantastic. It would answer a lot of these right-winger problems that we're talking about. And if purely from a PSR situation, getting through to July the 1st, we talked about, if you were to sell Miggy and just bring in Minte, fantastic bit of business. It's genius, really, from the club if that were to work out. If they were able to sell Almiron for 20-odd million quid and bring in Minte, who they've already signed, and he was able to fill that role, that would be the dream scenario, wouldn't it? Because it would allow you then to maybe, we're talking about like a big shot, like an Isaac Bruno type player. You would give you that ability to do something maybe really big in that after July the 1st if we were able to make that work.
Goes back to what you said before, Pete, about maybe bringing in a striker, like a hybrid striker who could play anywhere across the front three. If you could get a predominantly right wing striker, that would be perfect, wouldn't it?
Yes, yeah, they would. Yeah.
Well, I guess in summary, as Eddie would say,
he's a great age.
They are a great age. So let's see how it all plays out. I want to go into a comment from Jimmy. Now, are you sure about this one, Jimmy? Because I thought it was Keith Downey you met here, but Jimmy goes, so glad to have met Pete last summer in Atlanta. Were you in Atlanta, Pete?
No, I wasn't.
It was Keith.
I don't know. Who knows? Pretty sure it wasn't me. But yeah, it could well be Keith. Who knows? I sometimes think we are the same person. So it's like I wake up in the morning and not sure whether it's me or him I'm staring at in the mirror. But no, me, Keith. I love it. I love it. To be fair, I always poke fun at the Keith and Pete comparisons, but I'm not sure Keith likes it quite as much as I do. But it's always one that tickles me. And we always joke on about whether I get more Keiths or he gets more Pete's. I think we're about 50-50.
Well, we've got a super chat in as well from FX Pro, and he goes, "Why are Sky not talking about Gordon and England? All you hear about is Foden and Palmer and Saka."
We're not talking about Gordon. I don't know really. I think that probably I sort of, if you watch me on Sky Sports News FX Pro, you probably, other fans complain that I talk about Newcastle players too much. So I get like, God, why is he only talking about Gordon? Why is he not talking about Foden and Palmer? I mean, Palmer was in the last England squad, didn't even get any minutes. Gordon, I thought, came out the back of it really, really, really well. I did a Q&A with Gareth Southgate up at St James's Park not long ago. He came up to Newcastle, obviously ahead of the big game on Monday night. It's going to be great to see England at St James's. And then he spoke glowingly about not just Gordon, but also, I think, Livramento, Lewis Hall, these kind of players aren't very far away. And I think, amazingly, a lot of people scoffed at when we reported those deals last year, a lot of people scoffed at the finances involved, but Newcastle could have signed, I wrote it in my book, Newcastle have potentially signed England's right back and left back for the next 20 years last summer. And you're going to look back and go, wow, what great pieces of business those two were. So yeah, I think, if you feel that we're not talking enough about Anthony Gordon, I promise you I'll talk about him more.
No, we love the way you always give a Newcastle
represent.
We don't get it enough. We're not referring to Sky, but we just talk about media in general. We don't get enough coverage enough, and you need people that.
But can I just say, Pete, on that, and I mean this genuinely, and I've been here 15 years, right? And I see the Newcastle chat on X and social media. Let me promise you now that whatever club you support, you they have the same complaints. Every single club thinks we don't talk about their club, that we're negative, that we're like someone else. It's every single club thinks that. And it was brilliant because it was a real eye-opener to me, because I came from the Northeast where I probably had a lot of those same ideas. And then you get here and you realize that fans from every single club in the country are having the same complaints. They go, how can you always show goals scored against our team? That's the one but what they don't realize is that they only really notice when it's, if you're a Manchester United fan, suddenly Old Trafford's on the screen, you go, oh, they're showing another goal against us. But trust me, every fan's thinking the same thing. We have the same clubs getting in touch saying, oh, you love Liverpool. You might as well call it Liverpool TV. You might as well call it Manchester United TV. Presenting, God, this might as well be Newcastle United TV. All he talks about is Newcastle. So you have the same fans having the same gripes. It's not a Newcastle thing, guys. Trust me. And I think until you work in the industry, so what's Claire saying? Newcastle get blanked all the time with the media. It's not. I mean, Claire, I'm reading your message there. Again, I will say it once again. Every fans from every club, and you think Newcastle get blanked all the time? Try supporting someone lower down the Premier League. Newcastle now, trust me, get talked about a lot more. There's 20 clubs in the Premier League, and however many beyond, going down the EFL and beyond. Newcastle get talked about plenty. Don't worry, it's fine. And quite simply, if you want to be talked about constantly, then they need to get where they're going, which is winning titles all the time. I spend a lot of time talking about Manchester City. Why? Because they're winning trebles and they're in Champions League finals and semi-finals. So that's what happens. And you only got to look at some of the grief that the reporters get, certainly the regional reporters. I'm not going to name names, but because they talk more about that club than they do about that club. Well, that's because that club's there and that club's there. It's just, that is what happens. If you want to be talked about more and you want your players to be talked about more, if that is what you want, and quite simply, it will happen naturally as Newcastle go from strength to strength. It's just a fact of life.
Pete, it's so weird hearing you mention, about fans writing in or emailing or commenting and saying, oh, you always show goals conceded. And the amount of times I've had that conversation with my dad and I've gone, look, it's Newcastle again. Goals conceded, it's always Newcastle. And it's so weird you saying that.
It's because your brain instantly, when you see Newcastle, your brain instantly records it, but then you forget all the other 150 million goals that get shown in the day. Your brain records that one. It's funny how it works, but I can guarantee you that there's not someone sitting in the office behind me like going, Alan, can we get a goal from Cole Palmer? Oh, by the way, make sure it's against Newcastle. Probably.
And I'm like, that bloody hell.
Let's get the quickest one that comes to they'll drag 100 goals up and just plonk one in. It's as simple as that. Everything is done so quickly. There's no big conspiracy.
Person doing that videos
or anything else.
But look, you're carrying the cam for us. You're carrying the flag, the torch for Newcastle United. And Pete, we absolutely appreciate it. You have been fantastic and continue to be that. And at this point, we're going to let you go because you've been an amazing guest, as you always are, on Loaded Mag NUFC. Massive thanks for you coming on.
Thanks, guys. Have a great summer, everybody. Enjoy it. And bring on next season. Let's go for it again.
Yeah, let's go.
Top.
Thanks, Pete.
We'll let you go. Have a great evening, and look, we'll speak to you soon, Pete. Take care, mate.
Cheers, all. Thanks, guys.
Take care, Pete.
Mind yourself.
Great stuff, Pete.
Legend.
And,
you devil with Dharmesh. Like, honestly, for any of the viewers out there, me and Daz genuinely did not know about that because when he come up on the bottom, I was like, no way. That was class.
And I was talking to you for 15 minutes before we went live as well. You didn't even mention the little.
I just thought, you know what? Let's just play it out. Let's play it out. Let's wait and see. But great for Dharmesh Sheth to come and join us. We had the Sky Sports transfer talk in Loaded on Loaded Mag NUFC.
I was going to say, but like halfway through it, that I thought no, because I sound like a proper fanboy. Like I must have looked down, or I was sending a tweet out, something like that. And then as I was listening, I was like, "This is like being on Sky Sports News." It was proper weird. It was proper weird because obviously it's always on in the background in the house, isn't it? And when you hear like Dharmesh and Pete like not arguing with each other, but like bantering it out, and I'm thinking they're doing that on Loaded. It was so weird, but it's so good. I hope everyone at home enjoyed it. Brilliant.
Definitely.
Really brilliant.
If you miss the start, you have to go back and watch it because just to see our reactions and Pete Graves because he didn't know either.
No.
And a few exclusives in there as well. So if anyone's just tuning in now, I think there's one or two that have just come into the chat. You have to go back and watch. There are a few exclusives in there. Look, this is what we do on Loaded Mag NUFC. We talk transfers, and like we said, we're not going to fill people with false hope. We'll talk about it on a genuine level. We'll give our opinions, and we get the people on that know way more than what we do about transfer deals. And so it made for an absolutely brilliant show. Look, we've had nearly 400 watching over the course of the show, steady around 400 mark for this show. Make sure we hit those likes. Daz gave you the task. If you can remind us, Daz, what was the task? How many likes was it?
At the start, it was 350 with Pete Graves, but I think we have to up it. I think we have to go higher now with that surprise visit from Dharmesh. Let's go 400. Yeah. 400 likes.
400 likes.
For the Sky Sports News special.
And about 400 in the chat. For any of you watching back at this point right now, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, beyond, click the like. Let's get that way above the 400 and look, support the channel. And we have to say, massive thanks to so many new subscribers. We've seen so many new people in the chat as well, which is amazing. And of course, we thank you all for your continued support. Claire G, she said, I've liked with a fist bump. We'll give you one back. Absolute legend for that. Boys, look, we could have carried on for another hour potentially transfers. But look, there's more to come. There's more to come. We will be back, hopefully, at some point this week, maybe sooner than you expect. We will have a conversation, the three of us, team loaded, and we'll see what we've got cooking.
We'll talk. We'll come up with the show, and then Pete will surprise us with someone else to bring on at the last second and blow us out of the water. But thanks everyone for chatting. And everyone, just a quick shout out as well to our sponsors. A shout out to the RadiatorShed.com. And you know what? I'll play the little jingle because everyone loves the little jingle. Here it is. Rightio, and if you want a 20% off anything across the Radiator Shed range from products and services, you contact them on russ@theradiatorshed.com or 077-666-04112 and say loaded 20 and he will sort you out there and then. Also a shout out to our other sponsor in terms of manscaped.com. And for 20% off, use the same code, loaded20. Loaded20 is the one to remember. And when you're buying anything from manscaped.com. And you get 20% off and free shipping. So check that out. We'll tell you all about the range again. Don't worry. We're not going anywhere from that. But that's it for the sponsors. What are you saying to me? You want the Isaac video to play us out?
Tom Dixon is begging for the Isaac video, and Tom, I'm all over that, mate. I completely agree. You can never have enough of that.
The spelling mistake I can't fix because I have to get it all up back out and get it. But anyway, that's it.
Before we do, sorry, Pete wants to just jump in with something. Go on, Pete.
Well, the Isaac video is coming on because just like Bruno Guimarães and Pete said tonight, he ain't fucking leaving. He ain't fucking leaving.
How'd you like that, Arsenal? Good night, everyone.